Hello everyone. This is the second day of quadratic formula. So let's remember some of the things we talked about yesterday. Alright, so yesterday we talked about the solutions of a quadratic equation, ax squared plus bx plus c equaling 0 can be found by using the quadratic formula. Remember that the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times ac all over 2 times a. Now, our goal is to make sure that we can figure out what a, b, and c are and correctly use the equation so that we can figure out what our solutions are. So let's start with example 1a. In example 1a, the quadratic is already in its correct order, meaning x squared, then comes x term, and then comes a number. And it's already equal to 0, so that's a thumbs up. So now what we have to say is, well, a equals 1, and I like to put mine in parentheses, b equals 10, once again I put it in parentheses, and c equals 22. And then from there we can go ahead and substitute in all the values we have into our equation. X equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4 times the a value times the c value, all over 2 times the a value. And then we just simplify. I do have my calculator handy, so make sure you have yours too. Negative times 10 is negative 10, plus or minus. Now I do type in what's inside the quadratic into the calculator all at once. So that is 10, I like to do it as I see it. So open parentheses first. 10 squared, where is it? Minus 4, open parentheses, oh, no, that doesn't have parentheses, 4, open parentheses, 1, close, and then 22 in parentheses as well. So then I press enter, and I know that 12 is what's inside, divided by 2. And then we simplify. Now, 12 simplifies to 4 times 3, and 4 simplifies to, oh, that's not true, 2 times 2. So I know that a 2 will come out. So we are left with x equals negative 10 plus or minus. A 2 comes outside of the radical. This 3 will go back in because it doesn't have a pair, divided by 2. Now 10, 2, and 2 all have a 2 in common. So if I divide negative 10 by 2, I get negative 5 plus or minus. If I divide 2 by 2, I get a 1 square root of 3. And if I divide a 2 by 2, I get a 1 as well. So our final answer is really negative 5 plus or minus square root of 3. Alright, so those are our two solutions to our quadratic. Alright, let's look at example B. Example B is no different than example 1. The only difference is that one side is not equal to 0. So we do have to subtract the 7 to the left side of the equation. And we are left with x squared plus 4x minus 7 equals 0. Since there are no like terms on the left side, you would just write all terms next to each other. Once it's in order, we can say a equals 1, b equals 4, and c equals negative 7. And as I said, I always put these in parentheses and use our quadratic formula. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4a times c all over 2 times a. And we simplify. Let's move this to the other side. We have negative 4 plus or minus. I am going to put what's inside the square root into my calculator. So I have open parentheses 4 squared minus 4, open parentheses for the 1, and open it for the negative 7. And we ended up with 44, so square root of 44 divided by 2 times 1, which is 2. Now 44 breaks down to 4 times 11, and 4 breaks down to 2 times 2. 11 doesn't break down anymore, but you can see a pair, so 2 is going to come outside. So we have x equals negative 4 plus or minus. The 2 will come outside. The square root of 11 will stay back, divided by 2. Now, what does negative 4, 2, and 2 all have in common? Well, they all have a 2 in common, So our final answer will be negative 2 plus or minus 1 square root of 11 over 1, which we would write it as negative 2 plus or minus square root of 11. Those are our two solutions that we have there. Now we have one last problem that we want to repeat this process in. The more practice you get, the better it is for you. Now in C, we have two terms on the right side. So I'm going to go ahead and move the subtract 3 to the other side, as well as subtract 11x to the other side. And we end up with 5x squared. I'm going to write the negative 11x next, and then the minus 3 last, equals, and then everything on the right side cancels to 0. Now we can go ahead and start our process by saying A equals 5, B equals negative 11, and C equals negative 3. And once again, I put all of my values inside parentheses to make sure I don't make any silly mistakes. Now let's run the quadratic formula. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of negative 11 squared, so that's B squared, minus 4 times the A times the C. I'm just grabbing these values, divided by 2 times the A. So we have negative times negative is a positive, plus or minus square root. We got to figure out what's inside there, so I'm going to take out my calculator. We have open parentheses negative 11 divided by squared, to the second power, minus 4 times 5 in parentheses and times negative 3. Once again, typing in exactly what I have written on my paper. And our answer is 181. So we have 181 and then divided by 10, because 2 times 5 is 10. Now let's see. We're going to break down 181. I'm trying to think of numbers that multiply to 181. I'm going to start with 181 divided by 3. Anything? Not a nice number. 181 divided by, I know it's not 2 or 4, but let's just try it. Not close. 181 divided by 5. I don't think that's going to work either because I don't have a 0 or a 5 at the end. 181 divided by 6. Not a nice number. 181 divided by 7. Trying to find some factors here. 181 divided by 8 maybe? No. How about 181 divided by 9? Not working. I know 10 doesn't work because what about 181 divided by 11? Nope. 181 divided by 12? Now, you see how the numbers are getting really close to each other? Once I pass 15, I know that there is no factor. Divided by 13. Oh, look at that. Let's try 14. And then if I don't have 14, that means I don't have one. No. Okay, so that's it. It does not factor. And therefore, this is our final answer. And that could happen to you sometimes, so just watch out for those days. All right. Well done with today's lesson. Way to be persistent. See you in class. Bye.